All righty, welcome everyone. Welcome to this exciting edition of the Sales Success webinar. Thank you everyone for jumping on in. Welcome Tim and Reef. We are going live here on Zoom. I'm about to go live on LinkedIn. Tim, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Hopefully all of you are as well. It's Webinar Wednesday, picking up steam. And I'll tell you, and we've got lots of people logging on the call, so we'll give it a few minutes here, but there has been no slowdown whatsoever. Like, it's absolutely amazing what's been going on. And I'll just share with the folks that are on the call already. I think a lot of it comes down to just what current market conditions are and the volatility from a, treasury and agency loan type perspective, uh,
It's
which
been
is
an
driving,
interesting couple of weeks, I tell you that
yeah,
much.
which has been driving more demand, right? In regards to
Mhm.
what are the best options for borrowers. And of course, HELOC is the talk of the town and continues to pick up speed from there. So yeah, I was just sharing with Alex a minute ago, Reef. It's like, gosh, to some extent, you just get exhausted almost,
Mhm.
But it's exhaustion for a good reason. I'll say that. But it's just like, wow, we've been traveling a lot, and the team has in its entirety, and that hasn't slowed down
Mhm.
either. So pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff going on. How about you, Reef? How's it going for you?
Like you said, it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's a good problem to have. We'll just keep working hard. You know,
Yeah, no, it's grind and grind some more, right? So it's what we do. Anyway, listen, there's a couple things. One, we don't have any special guests today, which is okay because we have pretty exciting announcement, right, team?
Mhm.
You know, some time back we had what some people might remember having seen a lien attestation screen, and then for numerous different reasons we pulled back on that a little bit, and so we are happy to report that it's back. So I want to set the stage here a little bit, Alex and Reef, if that's okay with you, and
Mhm.
maybe help control the narrative as to why this is potentially such a big impact. Lots of folks that have used our inquiry tool, which we of course lean on very heavily, might know or have come across issues where you run an inquiry and it shows an existing first and second lien, but in fact, one of those liens may have been paid off long ago. And previously, we didn't really have the ability to challenge it at any level, if you will. And that's what this new lien attestation screen coming back into our workflow gives us the ability to do. Now, there's some intricacies to it, right? And Alex and team, you're going to go over
Mhm.
that. But I just kind of want to set the stage that that's really what we're trying to solve for. It's important to understand for those of you that don't know, virtually everything we do is from a digital connection, right? And it's a waterfall type of path or effect. This is true with debts to be paid off. This is true with lien matches. All the stars have to align. And the good news is for the most part, they do. This isn't maybe an overwhelming issue, but in fact, just a place that we identified as a company, really like, hey, you know what? We think we might be able to improve this if we bring in the ability for the LO to be able to attest to either these are the liens that belong to the property or these do not belong to the property. So does that make sense, team?
I think that makes sense.
The way I just laid that out. So I know we have tons of people logging on here, which is great. And so anyway, Alex, I think we should just demonstrate it, like kind of set the expectation as to we just talked about why it's back and why we're doing the attestation screen. But let me ask you a question. You're going to demonstrate it, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's important to note that this isn't going to pop up on every inquiry, right?
That is correct. So this is something that is going to appear. You'll see it, I would say sparingly, not on every file. We are still going to try and verify the liens automatically. Meaning, this is the big thing, right? We do an AVM. As a part of that, we pull property data. And we do it like a waterfall effect. We have 4 property vendors. They're going to be pulling through the property information, doing that AVM, right, where you get that AVM appraisal doc and all that fun information, as well as we pull some information from Experian. So here's the important thing. If the system can verify the liens on the property, if it can match that information off the trade lines, if everything's looking good, you won't have to go through the lien verification screen, right? The whole point of that is that it'll match the liens, the application will be quick, there will not need to be a title report or anything of that nature. We'll zip the applicant through. But if there is a situation where we can't match the liens, if it's a bit wonky in my own words, let's say, if the system's unsure, if it's saying, hey, hello, what's going on here? That's where you're going to get a lien verification page that you're going to see, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a second, to where you can manually go in and verify the liens on the property. Here's the kicker with that, though, and I'll talk more about this later. There will be a title report that will be required because of that. Now, still going to be automated like everything we do. You won't have to be submitting documents with that. But keep it in mind that because we want this to be as quick and easy as possible, if we can verify it right away, we will. But if we can't, that's where this new page will come into play. Like Tim was saying, this is like the McRib. It's coming back. So you may have seen this in the past, but this is definitely something that is here to stay from now on. I promise we probably won't take it away like the McRib.
The McRib. So now I'm hungry. Right.
I know it's almost lunch. We'll get there. Don't worry.
Right. Real quick before Alex demonstrates and shares his screen here for all of us to view, a couple of housekeeping items. Alex and Reef, do you want the folks using the Q&A button or the
Q&A,
chat button?
please. Yeah,
Q&A.
we'll post some information in the chat, but use the Q&A. We'll do Q&A later on.
Yeah, so go ahead as questions come up. If you have some questions, go ahead and post them in the Q&A section, and then we will get to as many of those questions before we wrap up today's webinar. So awesome. Let's take a look at it, Mr. Alex.
That sounds fantastic to me. Let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen here, everyone. Whoop, there we go. Now, what's important about this, I'm going to take this from the very beginning so that you understand this is built into that inquiry tool, meaning you as the loan officer are the one to be doing this. Now, some of you may have a partnership type to where you have a referral link. Please keep in mind, if your borrower uses the referral link, they will not have this option. That's another big strength of the inquiry tool. We have it built in because you as a loan officer will have this function. Again, if the event happens to where our lien matching does not work, more or less, we do not have the proper sufficient information to fully verify. All right, so here at the bottom left, we're going to have create new, right, to create our inquiry. That is going to take us through our inquiry process where we're going to fill in this information. I'm going to streamline this a little bit, right? We're going to put in the property address for financing, the occupancy type, whether or not the property is listed for sale. We're going to put in the borrower's information, including their email address, financial information, and then we're going to certify that we have permission for a soft credit pull. We've done this before. Now, once we hit confirm, we're going to have to confirm this information is accurate and true. And then once that happens, you, of course, if you've done this before, you're going to have a little loading screen for like 20 seconds or so. Can't demonstrate that in my demo tool here, unfortunately, but what's going to happen is it's going to pull the underwriting information, but it's also going to do that Experian soft credit pull through the FICO 9, and it's going to do that AVM. And again, it's a waterfall effect. There's multiple vendors, it's pulling property data, it's doing that AVM, right? So it's as accurate as possible. It's also going to be doing, again, that Experian pull, taking consideration and matching things up on the trade line. So as we've demonstrated before in previous webinars, you can see that information in the detail screen. But what's important with this, let's say, for example, it's pulling all that and it goes, you know what? We can't sufficiently verify the liens on the property. You're going to get a new screen. That's where you're going to get the lien verification screen. Now, with the lien verification screen, quite simply, what it's going to do is it's going to show you a couple things. First and foremost, it's going to show you any liens it takes into consideration that could potentially be on the property. This could absolutely be accurate and true. It could be on their secondary investment properties. It can be completely false and you have no idea what it is. It could also potentially show you verified liens that you cannot change. So it could say, hey, these are verified, but we found a couple other ones. Happens if someone has secondary investment properties. Maybe it was under their name, the system didn't know how to verify them. So again, you as the loan officer, what's going to happen here is it's going to show you anything it pulled, and then you can go in and manually make adjustments. Just keep in mind, anything that is added, modified, changed, anything on this page is going to be verified at final underwriting with a full property report. Now, here's the thing with this. This is the reason we don't do it every single time. This can take up to 3 business days. I usually say 1 to 3. Sometimes it's really, really fast. Sometimes it can take up to 3 business days. So please keep that in mind. If we can manually verify the liens on the property, right, which is going to be most of your inquiries, your borrower's apps are going to go through. Again, they get it done really quick. But if we can't, this can potentially slow down the application because we need to verify. So it can take 1 to 3 business days. So let's say, for example, we're looking at this. This is Bank of America. And I think to myself, you know what? That's actually the mortgage on their secondary property. What I can do is I can quite simply deselect that. And then either I can say they own the property free and clear, right? Or I can say I'm going to add a mortgage or other liens on the property. That's where you can make that selection. You can go in here and you're going to be able to add in the information for the system to take into consideration for that pre-qualification. That again will be later verified off a full property report during final underwriting. But this is where you can go, okay, well, we can add, say, a mortgage, a HELOC, or maybe some other lien on the property. But in this case, I'm just going to say, no, I'm going to add their accurate mortgage on here. The original amount is actually a lot more, let's say, but this is something where we can also add in the current balance. This again is considered for pre-qualification. You'll see that on the offer screen, what their pre-qualified offers are. And then final underwriting will all be dictated by that full property report. So from there, I'm sure we can all pull our own, property data, make sure it's all accurate and true. But now what's going to be happening is it's going to take in the manual entry instead of what it was pulling off the property information. So no longer are we going to have situations where you're going to do an inquiry and you're going to go, hey, that lien was incorrect. That lien's not actually on the property. That's where you can now manually make those adjustments.
So Alex, I want to stop here if you don't mind for just
Mhm.
a second, and kind of talk through some best practices here. So first and foremost, I want to back up in time, and I'm a huge fan as loan originators when we do an inquiry, even maybe prior to hitting proceed and sending the offer to the borrower. If you as originators have the ability through a third-party vendor, one of your title or escrow companies, to log in and pull property profiles, I want to encourage you to always do that for numerous reasons. One, you'll be able to see any existing lien history that they have, but also you'll be able to quickly take a look and see how the title is currently held, sole, joint, trust, the name, does it match your borrower? And that's not totally related to lien release, but I just love that as a power user concept, right? So when you do the inquiry, if you can, always take a couple minutes and pull your own property profile and just kind of set the expectation with the borrower. Now, Alex, in this case, let's just play this out. The borrower in this case does have a Bank of America loan, but it happens to belong to a different property they own. So they've unchecked the box because it doesn't belong to this subject property. And then because they pulled a property profile, they know that the borrower did a loan with Stormcastle Mortgage and it was done on January 9th of 2017. You see what I mean? They've gone and added that. Am I on track so far?
That is absolutely correct. And what I also really like about that, Tim, this is something Tim's talked about a lot too, is pulling a lot of that information. You can see, is it held joint? Is it held trust? If it's held trust, you can let them know to have that certificate of trust ready, right? This is information you can pull ahead of time to make sure that this is successful. It is an easy process for the borrower, but that's where you're verifying ahead of time, making sure it's all accurate and true. So when the property report comes around, worst case is they have to wait a couple days.
And by the way, one of the things that really drove us to this point, what we're looking at here now today, is in fact, we saw scenarios with our partners and loan originators where they would run an inquiry, a lien would pop up, but in fact, the lien had been paid and released sometimes several years ago. So now you wouldn't have another mortgage to add in. You know, you've checked, the property is owned free and clear. And now, Alex, you quickly pointed out, you could literally choose they own their property free and clear. That's important because when you do that, you'll also be getting first lien HELOC pricing, which is considerably better than second or third lien pricing. So I
That
really,
is,
really like that as a feature, you know, for the loan originator to basically, for lack of a better term, challenge or at least question what we're pulling for lien data. And again, just to reiterate, Alex, and I know we can't get too far into the weeds in this and all the tech and waterfall effect, but this screen will not pop up every single time. This screen will only pop up if there seems to be some sort of mismatch or disconnect between our different logic sources, correct?
that is correct. And so I want to really set that expectation. We cannot force this. I cannot do it. Tim cannot do it. Our CEO, Michael Tenenbaum, cannot do it. So if you know, this is something where still, if you do the inquiry, you do not see this screen, we cannot bring it for you. This is in the event there is a mismatch. I can't talk apparently. The property vendors could not properly sufficient verify the liens on the property right. This is going to be a tool for you. Whether or not the tool appears just depends on what is being pulled off those property vendors as well as Experian. So just keep that in mind. If you do not see this, don't be surprised, I should say.
So Alex, let's talk a little bit about that paragraph that's got a box around it, right? That says any changes in the below liens verified at final underwriting. So just to clarify for everybody, when you've done just what Alex demonstrated here, what that's going to do is that's going to flag for, in loan originator terms, I'll say a full title. And so that's going to pull a full title. But what's interesting here, and I want to set the right expectation, it's verified at final underwriting. So Alex or Reef, one of the, or both of you, walk me through that. So I've made the corrections as a loan originator. I've now received offers. I've submitted to the borrower. At what point am I, the loan originator and the homeowner, going to actually know that what we put in here has been verified and good to go?
So with this, more or less, let me go ahead and go down. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm actually going to go skip ahead even further. So what's going to happen here is after identity verification, what's going to happen is we're going to do a final AVM. We're also then, that's where we're going to go ahead and do that full property report. And we're also going to do a hard credit pull, more or less. That's all going to happen here. So what's going to happen very importantly is before they get final offers, and final offers, there's a little hidden field right before note signing where they can select their final offers, is we are going to ensure that when we're doing that final underwriting, that the property information is pulled, it is sufficient. So what you may see is the borrower may be held up, again, 1 to 3 business days. If, again, there is a lien verification screen, because we will need to manually verify the liens on the property. That's something, if you scroll down, you can see the property liens, right? In this case, Bank of America. Cool, I just made that selection. But that is something to keep in mind is they can go through, they'll do income verification, still soft credit, still pre-qualifications, because income verification can present different offers if they don't verify enough. They'll set up their disbursement account. We're then going to pull hard credit. They're going to verify their identity. Then we're going to go through final AVM and we're going to do the property report from
So it's
what
at
we're
this
talking
stage,
about.
it's at this stage right now, the identity, the borrower's ID has been uploaded, it is passed, and it's now in that stage between there and note signing. So prior to it going to note signing is when the full title is being pulled.
Yeah, Reef, is there anything you want to add on there? Anything I missed?
No, that sounds pretty accurate to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not here again, so much of this is driven by borrower's engagement. So all of those stages that you just had up there, Alex, with the green check marks, they actually can go very, very quick. Depending on the borrower, right? The income verification, the ID upload, the final offer choice. And so I will just share with everybody, I actually just helped one of our partners the other day that loan officer was working on doing an inquiry, needed a little bit of help understanding the annual income aspect and that type of thing. And they received offers. And I just for fun, a couple hours later, checked in on it, and it was already at generating notary disclosure because because the borrower was engaged, right? So yes, Alex, you've pointed out it could take 1 to 3 business days for that full title report, but that 1 to 3 business days isn't going to start ticking until after that ID verification, correct?
That is correct. And so let's kind of set the stage for the borrower, I would say, on that. They have 14 days to get to hard credit, right? So it is a big financial decision. If they want to, sit around and say the offer selection screen, think about it over, that's fine, right? As well as, again, I really want to reiterate the point. Income verification is probably the biggest hurdle for borrowers, simply because it may be a little bit different than what they're expecting, as well as if they do not verify sufficient income, they can be presented alternative offers, right? You didn't verify sufficient income. Instead of 100,000, we're going to offer you 80,000. They can verify different accounts, right? Or they could take the 80,000, let's say in my example. This is something where I would have them get started on the application. They're good with the offer, they can just zip through, do income verification. Again, after income verification, they'll select their disbursement account. Then we're going to go through the proceedings of final underwriting. We're going to pull hard credit. We're going to do those final AVMs. And in this case, right, in the cases where we have lien verification, we're going to do that property report more or less. And what's important there is, again, setting the expectation. It can take 1 to 3 business days. I like to say 3 business days to set a proper expectation. It could be a lot quicker than that. But just keep in mind, it is something that can kind of slow it down a little bit. That's why if we can verify the liens, cool. We're not going to do that. They can still zip through the application. This is not going to slow you down any more than normal. But it's giving you options, and it's giving you control in those situations.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. So again, as quickly as the borrower's engaged, they'll get to that point either faster or slower than, just depending on how quickly they engage with verifying the information. So anyway, okay, that's great news. Love that this is the McRib is back. I love that example.
Hungry. I'm sorry, I'm hungry.
That's right. Couple things, and Alex, I think, just posted it in the chat, and I do want to drive this point home, as always, is if you run into snags or concerns or feedback, or you see it not working, like you think the lien attestation screen should have popped up and it didn't give you the ability, definitely reach out to us and let us know. We want to keep our product team engaged. They're asking for the feedback, by the way. Alex and Reef, you have not been on those meetings that I've been on, but our team, the product team behind the scenes, wants the feedback. So this is in figure terms, I'll say our first iteration of trying to provide a solution for this, and then we'll enhance from there as we find necessary. So I'm pretty encouraged by it. We have already a ton of great questions, and I think we should just dive in to the questions. What do you guys think?
Sounds good to me. Actually, you know what? Before we dive into the questions, Tim, there's one thing I did want to bring up.
Okay.
We do have a new enhancement coming out in a couple of weeks. We actually have an enhancement to lien verification.
You mean
Do
lien
we
payoff?
not?
As in lien payoffs, you mean?
Lien payoff specifically. So one thing I did want to plug for all of those that are here on the webinar is very, very soon, we've been talking about this a lot, is we are going to have lien payoff very, very soon in direct debt payoff in our IntelliDebt system. So if you've seen a webinar before where we show our IntelliDebt, where they can pay off debts, right? Right now it's like credit cards, personal loans. We are soon going to have liens, all liens. So keep that in mind. We are going to make an announcement. I highly, highly recommend registering for our next webinar as well. We may be showing that. We may be talking about it. This is something you'll get a lot of announcements on, but I really wanted to plug that because this, I think, is going to be a big, big thing for our HELOC product.
Well, one, Alex, you're spot on. It happens to be one of our questions, so we'll get down to that question here in a minute. And then, if you don't mind, I'll dive deeper into everything you just laid out there. But yes, it is coming, and I will tell you, my opinion is this is going to be huge in the marketplace. I think the demand and need is real, and so we're pretty excited about this. And so, yeah, once we get to that question, I'll dive into it a little bit more, just so that everyone follows along. So, Reef, what do we have as our first question here, sir?
So I believe Sunny's asking about leasehold properties, which are currently ineligible. Will that change in the future? I'm not sure, but as of right now, those are ineligible. And if you need access to the resource documents that goes over what properties are eligible and what properties are not, feel free to reach out to that email that Alex put in there, sales success at Figure, and we'll get that over to you.
Get him a copy of the resource drive. Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah. Can Figure make it more obvious in the customer's portal when they have a task to complete? The feedback I'm getting is that it doesn't stand out enough. Is there a pop-up that could maybe come up where a borrower would have to hit an X to proceed? It looks like the bell is too small, so that's on the product side.
This is actually great feedback. And by the way, Dave asked the question, so I want to thank you for the question, Dave. One, you're enlightening me here at some level. So what I love is Dave's asking it from the customer portal perspective, which most of us don't get to see, right, in real time. So Dave has been very engaged with his borrowers. So nicely done, Dave. And this is interesting. So team, confirm with me. So I know about the little bell. Okay, that's fine. But the borrower also gets an email, correct? Indicating that there's something they need to do on their file?
For conditions, yes. And they should also see something on their dashboard as well, from my understanding.
The borrower.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And also the referring LO, right? If there's a condition that pops up, the referring LO, we'll see that in the lead portal too. So kind of they can kind of combat that together.
It's good feedback. And actually, Alex, can you kind of make a note? Let's have a talk with the
Mhm.
engineering team and see if there is a way to make that
Absolutely.
little bell maybe a little more prominent. Maybe bigger. Maybe we could actually make it ring. Wouldn't that be cool? So-
That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
Yeah.
more engaged your borrowers are, the faster they're going to get through, right? So anytime they get stopped or they can't proceed forward, if they use that chat feature that's located usually in the bottom right corner, they can speak to an agent pretty quickly, a live one, not AI, and the agent will be able to help facilitate and get things moving for them. So the more engaged they are, the quicker they're going to go through. Always.
Yeah, and I think the point there is, Alex, as Dave's bringing up, and again, it's a great one, is okay, so the borrower's logged in their portal, but the bell, it's been a minute since I've looked at it, it's this little tiny bell, it's not very prominent in it, driving a borrower to know, hey, I should click on that and see what's left for me to do,
I agree with that. I did make a note, so we will bring that up with the engineers in our next meeting. I don't know if I have an example of that bell laying around somewhere, but I think you are right. They will receive an email notification. I know maybe a lot of times that will go to junk or spam. But I think you're absolutely right. Maybe something more prominent. Let me share my screen here really quick. So if anyone's unfamiliar with what we're talking about, is at the bell at the top right, this little bell, I can't show it because I'm in a demo tool, but it'll have like a red little dot and like a notification that'll say like, hey, there's something you need to do. So if there's like a condition they need to fulfill, they're going to receive an email, and at all times this bell is going to have like a little notification. So we can bring that back to the engineers about like how to make this ring or maybe jingle,
Yeah.
or maybe it does like do a full pop down or something. So I made a note of it.
Yeah, it's actually great feedback. And Dave's the first one to bring that up. So Dave, again, thank you. And then
We actually have a question from Karen, and she would like to speak. So I'm going to allow her to speak, and she can ask it live. So Karen, if you're there, you can unmute and feel free to ask.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, Karen.
Yeah, I have a client that completed the application on Monday night, and she did all the steps. Now she's in notary scheduled. Does that mean it's approved and we're ready to go?
Yes, I mean, I don't know if Karen, you want to put in the Q&A, the file number, we could look at it real quick. And you're saying the status shows what currently?
Well, the status just it says notary scheduled. So I was this is the first one that I did with you guys, and I'm just getting familiar with it.
Yeah, no, it's what's interesting, and Alex and Reeve, keep me honest here. I don't know that we actually have a status that says notary scheduled. I think it says either gen notary disclosure or
So we have notary in there. So notary scheduled more or less is again, I'd have to, I think, fully take a look at it, but keep in mind for manual notary, if there is a manual notary fee, when they schedule notary, what's going to happen there is we have to confirm that with our third party. So once it's confirmed, the borrower is going to receive a notification. They simply just need to show up to the notary, but that is the last step of the application. And what I also like to throw out to everyone as well is once notary is complete, they'll go through rescission if it's a primary property and they're funded after that. So keep in mind, if you see like the recording status and everything like that, that can take a little bit of time depending on the county. They've already been funded there. So yes, Karen, this will be the last step. They just need to wait around. They'll get confirmation once it's been confirmed with that third party, but they just need to show up for that notary. If it's e-notary, they just need to log into their application.
yeah,
Okay, thank
it's
you.
good to that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Karen,
thanks.
I want to add to that too. If this is for the Dina Gaffin file,
Yes,
that is correct. So they are at that step where they are doing the notary. So they
yeah,
did
scheduled for tomorrow. I'm
correct.
talking
So
quick.
That's where
Yeah.
we're gonna do that in-person closing. So wet signature, and then they're done.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then it'll be right of rescission if it's a primary residence, and 3 days from now, they'll be funded.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, well, by the way, Karen, congratulations on your first file. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm surprised it that quick. Woo.
Yeah, no, the opportunity is real. I've been saying that a lot lately. Like there's a lot of homeowners that are taking advantage of accessing their equity and getting HELOCs and whatever. So, yeah, keep plugging away, Karen.
All right, thank you.
It's a pleasure. All right. What type of appraisals do we require for first lien HELOCs? Are they any different?
Easy answer. Everything we do is AVM. There is no difference on a first lien HELOC for appraisal requirements. The only time that we're not going to use an AVM is if, in fact, no AVM findings happen. In other words, they can't locate the property. Then it would default to you, the loan originator, estimating a value and then ordering what we call a BPO, or think of that as like a drive-by. That's the only time we would get outside of the AVM.
Does this lien verification option allow us to pay off current second mortgages?
There's the question. Mr. William asked this question. And so this one I love talking about. So Alex teased everybody with it a little bit ago.
Here we
and so-
go.
Yeah. So this has been an ask for quite some time, by the way, in the entire industry, not just with us. And so I want to kind of give you why and whatnot on this. So it is true. We are actually currently testing right now in our direct to consumer channel the ability to pay off existing liens. So it's already working very, very well. We think the demand is going to be very high for this. Think of it like this. If you go in and run an inquiry right now today and the borrower has a current first and a current second, if the LTV isn't lower, CLTV on your new offer isn't lower than 70%, you will not get an offer for a third lien position. And right now today, we do not have the ability to say, yeah, but I'm paying off that second and going to replace it with a new second. But to Alex's point, it is coming, and it is coming in the very near future. In fact, I hope we can be having this conversation on our next webinar. And if not, it would be in the first one in May. That's how close we are to getting this done. Now, I want to talk to you about some great use cases that I want you to all start thinking about as you stay in front of your database through your CRM or whatever you're using. I believe that there are numerous homeowners that have had a line of credit, a traditional HELOC, that are maybe maybe even 10 years ago, who knows, that these traditional HELOCs, if we understand, not us, but the traditional HELOC model is an interest-only payment during the draw period. After the draw period, the file converts or rolls over to a fully amortized payment on the remaining term. So let's say that's a 20 or 25-year term for that new fully amortizing payment. There is going to be payment shock because they're going to be going from an interest only to a new fully amortizing payment. When we roll out the ability to pay off existing liens, You would be able to replace that existing second with a new figure second. You would also be able to select a 30-year fixed, fully amortizing, and that 30-year option will look and feel from a payment perspective very similar to their previous interest-only payment. So I actually think this is going to be a huge win for us. But it doesn't stop there. What I'm really excited about is that, let's say you run an inquiry for a borrower that currently has a balance. They only have a first lien and the balance is, let's call it $100,000, but they need $200,000. We will also be able to replace that first lien with a first lien figure HELOC. We will be able to pay off that existing first lien. So why is this important? It's important because depending on FICO score, depending on LTV, I want to encourage you all to think of it like this. You go and price out a cash out agency loan product for said borrower. We already know going in that the loan level price adjustments, especially depending on where the FICO or LTV is, can just be over the top, causing the rate to go really high. In our world, our first lien HELOC is priced very competitively and very aggressively, I'll say. And when we get the ability to pay off somebody's existing first and replace it with a first lien HELOC, that is going to be powerful. So powerful that I actually think our pricing will be better than potentially agency cash out pricing. I think this is going to be significant, especially with some of the volatility that we've all witnessed in the industry over the last couple of weeks. So hopefully that'll start to settle down. But nonetheless, I think the opportunity is real there. And so once we get to that point, here's what I want to encourage everyone to do. When you're working with that client that's paying off an existing first lien because they have cash out needs, that might be the best path for your homeowner. However, take the 2 minutes and run an inquiry and just compare apples to apples. Make sure you're taking a look. That's what I'm most excited about. The other piece is, which I think is going to be a big help for so many of us in the industry, is lower balance loans are very, very tough for us to do. Alex and Reef, you may or may not be aware of this, but they're very, very tough for loan originators to do because you have to fit in the high cost rules in LE Box 1 fees. And on lower loan amounts, that can be very, very tough to do. And as a result, we end up not doing them, or we do them at a loss with whatever company we're working for. Neither are good options. By the way, I'll just say that's true even if we're not paying off an existing lien. If you have borrowers that own their homes free and clear, that have cash needs, and by the way, make no mistake about it, they have cash needs, debt consol, home improvement, whatever the case is. Yes, take a look at your traditional agency products. You're going to be low LTV, and depending on your FICO, that might make the most sense. But please don't forget to quickly run an inquiry for the same homeowner, because you may find, again, that our existing first lien pricing is at or maybe even more competitive than agency cash out pricing. So just keep that in mind. That's why I love the inquiry tool so much, is because it's going to take you a whopping 2 minutes out of your day, and you'll quickly see what makes the most sense for your borrower.
Agreed.
Sorry, I got on my soapbox there for a little bit.
No, I like it. I like it.
Patty asks, how do we verify rental income? Would we use this on a tax return for other properties owned? And two, how can we check the debts prior to submission to see if the borrower is wanting to pay off with the loan? So, what do you guys want to say?
So Reef, I want you to take the rental income question here. This is, and I'll add in if even necessary, but I know you have some experience with this coming from your years here at Figure. So what would your take on that be? How do we verify rental income?
Of course. So rental income can be verified in 2 ways, just 2 ways. So it's easy to remember. Not everyone's going to fit in this box, but it's easy to remember. So one is if they're claiming it on their taxes, right? If they're claiming that income on their taxes, they can link up their taxes. It will pick it up. You're good to go. If also they are receiving direct deposits from, let's say, a third party, let's say a property management company that pays them their monthly rent each month. It's a direct deposit. It's ACH. It's not a wire. It's not a cash. It's not checks. Things like that will get picked up by our automated system. Other than that, that's it. We can't really look at lease agreements. We can't look at anything else. We can't look at cash or Zelle or peer-to-peer. Soon, though, we may have an alternative product. I won't really go too much into that here, but that does kind of does it outside of the scope of income verification. So that might be very helpful for individuals that are doing, projects like this, or kind of how their business is structured this way.
And of course, no surprise, the answer is spot on. So thank you for that, Reef. And just to drive the point home is those rental deposits, and it's important, loan originators, ask this question. If someone says, well, I'm receiving rental income for 4 properties, the next question should be, how do you receive the rental income, and is it going into your personal bank accounts? Because remember, right now today, our system using Plaid to link to their personal bank accounts, it will only link to personal bank accounts, not business. Okay. We're having some conversations around that, but make sure you ask the follow-up question. The additional follow-up question, which Reef touched on briefly, is who is paying them their rent? Is it a private party like the tenant themselves? And are they paying 1 month with Zelle and another month with Venmo and another month with PayPal? Most likely that is not going to get picked up because the source is not going to be consistent, and the cadence could very well not be consistent either. So just understand that going in. And then how can we check debts prior to submission that the borrower is wanting to pay off? Alex, you have a feel for that? I mean, it's interesting because just to walk everybody through this, we rolled out IntelliDebt some months back. It's been very successful, by the way. But when you, the loan originator, when you run the initial inquiry, you will see, and Alex, I don't know if you want to bring that up or not.
Yeah, I can absolutely bring that up. Hold on one second. Let me get back to that previous screen.
Because you'll see a tab. It's a tab that shows debts eligible to be paid off, and you'll actually be able to see a list, and you, the originator, could check boxes. I want to pay them all off, just these 2, whatever the case might be. And it is important to note that the borrower can drive that aspect of it as well, but you can see the list.
You just can't see it prior to submission, right? Like you're gonna have to run an inquiry to see it. I think
Right.
Yeah, oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Reef. That's kind of where my mind is at, is you still have to submit an inquiry. Because the big thing here, so we're on the inquiry offer screen. The reason I'm saying that is because for IntelliDebt, it's off that method pull. So it depends on what method pulls for what debts are eligible to be paid off. Meaning you have to fill in the first page of the inquiry. You have to do the soft credit pull, right? It doesn't trigger leads. It's no harm, no foul. The strength of this, though, is on the screen. The borrower has not received anything. So what you can do here, right? You can still play around with their offer, right? Have a conversation with the borrower if you'd like. But down here with IntelliDebt, what you can do is hit get started. And this is where you're going to be able to see what debts they have to pay off. So you'll be able to see exactly what debts they have in here. You'll be able to make those selections, see how it affects their offers ahead of them starting the application if you do the inquiry. And with this, again, this is before they received an email, because once you complete the inquiry, then they were receive a link to begin the application. So you still have to start an inquiry, but it's before the borrower receives anything.
And then the
Hopefully that
borrower
answered that
sees
question.
yeah, I hope that answers the question. And the borrower sees the same thing, and also in the details, transaction history, if you will, the details will show you debts being paid off, such and such a dollar amount, cash to borrower, cash to debts, for a total loan amount. So it is in there. There is some conversations being had, by the way. Is there a way for us to improve transparency as a result of the soft pull, meaning showing what the liabilities came up on the soft pull? I don't know how soon we'll get there, but I was just on a meeting this morning having that same conversation. So more enhanced.
And just for clarity as well, a common misconception is that when you run an inquiry, it's an actual application, or your borrower is getting notified. Your borrower does not get notified until you complete the last page, where you're going to check the boxes for the disclosure, sign your name, and then hit proceed and confirm. Until you do that, there is no communication sent. So really, it's a pricing tool. So when you're on that second page that Alex just showed, where it's showing you everything, it's not a true submission yet. It's an inquiry. So don't feel like you're actually submitting a file just to see the offers and rates.
It's a great point. All right, what's on deck?
Manufactured homes, any timeline on when we can add those to our approved properties?
I don't listen. This does come up for a little bit. By the way, having been an originator for a long time, I'm Now, maybe I've missed something, but I don't know of anybody doing HELOCs on manufactured home. In fact, manufactured lending has always been kind of a tough thing. I mean, there's some niche specialty lenders, but I don't know that I see any time in the near future any way of us doing manufactured homes. Now, having said that, I want to let everyone know that the system is the inquiry tool, the lead portal and inquiry tool is intuitive, and it's pulling data based on property addresses. And I would still encourage you to run an inquiry and see if the AVM and the data and everything comes back, because I have seen where you may in fact get offers. And if you do, we're okay, pushing that
Well,
through.
the other
I,
thing too
oh,
is,
sorry. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, Alex. The other thing too with manufactured homes, a lot of times they are in the category of personal property, right? So it's not truly a home. Now, if you have a manufactured house that maybe has a foundation, it's been converted to real property, you may actually get an offer. So again, it takes you 30 seconds, put the property address in, see what you get. If you get an offer, awesome. If you didn't, 20 seconds of your life was spent on it. Go ahead and do the inquiry. Sorry, Alex.
Reef keeps getting faster and faster. I said 2 minutes. He said 30 seconds. Then he said 20 seconds. Holy smokes. Reef's
It's
on
fast.
fire.
It's fast. The
Yeah.
more you do it, the
You should
faster.
see how quickly he types. This is fast. I
Um,
was just gonna say, man, I've been with this company 5 years. Everything constantly changes, so I wouldn't say keep your hopes up, but things are always changing. But to Tim's point, on an inquiry, see what
Yeah.
happens. That's always the golden rule around here.
Okay, what do we got up next here, Reef?
Credits. So is there any negotiation with the credits? This is a very common one, right? LO runs a soft pull, gets a different score than what we're pulling. There's a discrepancy. Is there anything we can do about that?
No. Good. And listen, I want to be cautious here because I understand the pain. I really do. And I've seen and had that happen myself in my origination career. Here's the interesting piece. We don't have the ability within our systems to start going down the path of ways to improve somebody's credit score, or our at our level the ability to challenge what is being reported. By the way, it's a understandable and conscious decision that we make. By the way, most lenders don't do that either. So where we can improve is getting you enough information back, and we are going to work on this to where you would know what trade line needs to be amended or corrected as a result of our soft pull. But we have to be very cautious with this because if we were to open that door, honestly, that'd be a whole entire new team that would be fielding phone calls throughout the day. So very, very tough. I get it. But again, you've run the inquiry, you've taken in Reef's World 20 seconds, and you find out it doesn't work. Use that information along with the AVM to switch gears, come up with a new strategy if one is available. And if not, like you would with any other loan file on your client, you would start having a conversation with them as to what the strategy is to improve their credit score to then make it a more feasible transaction for the borrower, one transaction or another. So
Yeah. Co-ops, those are also part of the list of properties that are currently ineligible. That could change. If you need the resource drive, please reach out to Sales Success at Figure. It's in the chat. We'll send you the resource drive that has a complete list of what's eligible and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
The second lien, I think we touched on that. Ryan's
we
asking
did. Yeah.
hopefully by end of month, fingers crossed. That would be great to go live with that. Is there anything in the works to make the system better able to read the new Florida driver's licenses? The hologram is heck on your system, and customer service folks say that Florida is not the only states that have a lot of difficulties. That is true. Arizona is also
I was going to say Reef has some experience with
Yeah.
as a bad actor too.
By the way, I will say, well, one, I want to set the right expectation, make sure that everyone understands what's really happening here. First and foremost, it is not a human live person that's actually reviewing and saying yay or nay to the ID upload. Okay. It is software, it is tech, and we're very aware of where there are some disconnects there, and it can be frustrating. So full transparency, I get it. Now, I will tell you that the engineering and product team together are currently working on what, if anything, is a better or more consistent model than what we're currently using for getting ID signed off. So much so that about a week or so ago, I made a recommendation that as we're looking at different options here, let's grab a group of IDs that we know didn't pass on the initial upload, and let's try a different system and upload them there and see if they passed there. That to me would be a great take. And you're right, Florida is tough. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously setting the right expectation. You know, on the last webinar, we had Al Bennett on a call, and he said something very interesting about this, that when he's working with his borrowers, he actually sends them an example or actually shows them, demonstrates the best method about going and taking a photo of their ID, making sure that all four corners with no glare on a dark surface, you know, all those things. So anytime you can help your borrower with that and set the expectation, you'll be well served. The other piece is understand now, and you may or may not have seen this already, but let's say the borrower uploads their ID and it doesn't pass. You, the loan originator, now receive an email saying, hey, there's conditions on your file. It's a very generic email. You log in and you can click on your conditions tab and you will see that what condition is needed. Most of the time you will see that it's an ID. By the way, great news is that, and Alex and Reef, I don't know if you guys have even seen this yet, but you now will see a drop down that doesn't say just borrower's ID, but it'll also say additional signer ID.
Mm-hmm.
And that is live now as well. So you can then also upload that on behalf of your borrower if their initial attempt failed. So we will get better there. It is definitely high on the priority list for trying to figure that out.
Nima says, thank you for answering the questions. The three of you are figures art. Alex, Reeve, Tim, art. Happy face. Thank you, Nima.
And I just want to say thank you for putting Alex first, as it should be. So
there you go.
What are we going to do with this guy, Reef? Like,
We have actually another individual, Dave, wants to speak. So let's see what Dave has to say. Go ahead, Dave.
well, yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself. There he is.
Hey, can you hear me?
We got you.
Hey, thank you. Hey, I just wanted to give a quick feedback on I live in Florida, by the way, so I've got a lot of experience with these Florida IDs, and all you have to do for Arizona and Florida is take a little piece of white paper and put it behind the hologram with a dark background, and it works every time.
Okay.
good
So,
advice.
yeah, I love that. Dave, totally non-related. Can you do us a favor just so we have your contact information? Shoot us an email at our salessuccess@figure.com.
Yeah, sure.
I love that feedback, and I'd love to continue to pick your brain on that. Nice tip and trick there presented by Dave. So thank you.
I like that.
Thank you.
It looks like Karen might have another question too. Let's see if we can get her to let us know real quick.
Karen's pushing the envelope. You're only allowed one question, Karen. No, I'm just kidding.
You
You can unmute yourself, Karen, if you need. Okay. Are you there?
Well, maybe she just left it up.
Yeah, maybe she just left it up. I don't know.
Let's say, Susan, I tried an inquiry the other day. However, I did not see the borrower's personal loans listed in order to check them to be paid off. Is there a feature where we will be able to essentially manually add those?
Couple of pieces here. There is not a situation that I'm aware of that we're even looking at to where you can manually add liabilities to pay off. And here's the why. We have our Experian FICO 9 soft pull. We have our third-party vendor, which is facilitating our payoffs, called Method, their initial soft pull as well. All the stars need to align. Those liabilities need to match up in order for them to populate as an eligible debt to be paid off. Okay. So there's no way for us to manually add because they need to be the lender, if you will, needs to be contracted or a partner of Method that information comes over. So we do see that from time to time. The other piece to this, though, that I do want to make sure, and Alex and Reef, we do need to lean on the engineering team and see if we can make this correction. If when you run an inquiry, you don't have any offers, you will likely see what we call our asset depletion screen pop up. And at the very top, it asks you to verify the annual income, make sure that number's right. Then just below it, it says assets, like does the borrower have any 401ks, IRAs, that type of thing. However, you would have to scroll to the bottom of that page to see what debts are eligible to pay off to qualify. And my concern has been recently that if LOs don't know to scroll to the bottom of that page, they will think, oh, there's no debts to pay off to qualify, and they move on. So Alex and Reef, you might remember me bringing this up before, but
Mhm.
we do need to lean back on it. I would love to see the debts to qualify come up to the top of the page, not down at the bottom, you know? So,
I've had conversations with LOs telling me there's no debts that populate at all. Like, what's going on? We screen share, we look at it. They just didn't scroll down far enough to see it. So maybe we'll get that changed. In relation to manufactured homes, we do see offers come through and submit them, but after the drive-by appraisal is completed, the application is declined. That's probably when a BPO offer generates for them to do.
Mhm.
that would have to be the case because again, we're not going to do a drive-by unless there were no AVM results out of the gate. And actually, Kara, it's a great point because if that were to happen, if you had no offers and you knew it was a manufactured home, and you went ahead and put in a value which was going to order a drive-by, then yes, you know that doesn't happen often, by the way. So I'd be very curious about that. But that's what's happening there because remember, a drive-by is not a part of our traditional normal workflow, only if no value is found in the AVM process.
What are we going to do about name variances? In essence, a borrower has two names on the ID, but title only shows one name. I love this question.
Yes, and see, this is the big thing to me. This is called Alex's golden rule. And Alex's golden rule is the name on the inquiry should match the name on the ID. Everything else we can match up with things like just going in there and making adjustments, or if we need to, that's where we'll request like a marriage certificate if we need to do something like an AKA on the back end. So make sure when you're doing the inquiry, right? Make sure you know what's on there. So if they have a double last name, hyphenated last name, suffix, whatever ID they're going to verify, driver's license, passport, whatever, make sure to put in that name. And then if there's a discrepancy, just like you're saying, like, hey, their title shows this, totally fine. It's the other way around that we're going to have issues with. We can change things, but it's a bit harder when their name is different on the application than their ID. So that's Alex's golden rule. Go by that.
So I'm going to jump ahead one question because it's related to the one that you just answered. But Sunny says, I've been told that Figure doesn't care what name is on the ID. That is not accurate, correct? Just want
That
to
is
drive
correct.
that
We
point
care a
home.
lot what the name on the ID is.
The only name we care about in terms of what's on there. We do not care about like middle name, for example. If there's no discrepancy, if you don't have the middle name on there, that's okay. Name on legal ID always has to match. Whatever legal ID they're using, by the way, right? So if they're using their passport and they're using their ID, sometimes because of delays, those names could be different. Whatever ID they're using for the application is what needs to match. So I have seen that scenario where you could, oh, I used the wrong name, but I have another ID that shows that, so you can use that. If you do a HELOC in a second position today, would you then next year do a HELOC for the same borrower in the third position?
The answer is yes, assuming all the stars aligned regarding CLTV. So we will go in third lien position. Do we have 680 FICO requirement on that?
Right.
680
Too.
and 68 and 70% CLTV. The irony is you actually wouldn't have to wait a year. You you could do it after 90 days.
Correct. Well, 45
At
days.
45 days, actually,
45.
yeah.
And also in a year, what if it makes more sense for you to roll in that second HELOC and just replace the second with a little
With a new second, sure.
Mhm.
up to you.
Yep.
All right, it looks like we have one question left. If borrowers have regular cadence for alimony via Zelle or Venmo, will the AI pick it up? On another note, 4 units in less than 30 days, 560K funded. You guys are awesome.
John, thank you for that.
Congratulations.
And regarding the cadence and alimony via Zelle or Venmo, probably not.
We won't pick it up that way, but we will look at alimony as a manual.
Mhm.
Award letter, basically.
Yeah, so we'll need some type of award letter or court order or something like that, and then we'll need the most recent bank statement to show that those funds are being deposited, and we could manually do that, actually.
That's a great call out, Reef.
Yeah, it gets escalated, so it can take a while because that's got to go up like on a supervisory level. But we can absolutely work with that. So there is that customer service number, right? I would say if you have something like alimony, Probably have the borrower yourself call in to kind of discuss options there.
Okay, last question. Hit us with it.
All right, well, we have how come PAD or TAD, the income verification tool you use to read bank statements, how come it doesn't work with someone who's self-employed and has a business bank statement to check for his cash deposits, someone who doesn't want to show their taxes?
Okay, so there's actually conversation from our product team right now looking at whether or not we can expand to use business bank statements. I will share with you all my opinion on this. I actually think that now, if the company makes the decision, I'm a company guy, I'll toe the company line. If that's how we're going to underwrite files and verify income through business bank statements, great, I'm all in. However, at a much higher level, I will tell you that what concerns me about that is one thing we do not have the ability to do when looking at a business bank statement is to know how many people might potentially own that business. So no, we do not today link to business bank accounts. Now, I will share with you that we did just help a loan originator this week that I mentioned it a little bit earlier. The loan officer was not aware they could use both borrower and additional signer spousal income in conjunction and combination for annual income. As we talked through it with the loan officer, what we realized was, again, how important it is to ask that borrower that's self-employed, how, if at all, do they pay themselves? And as it turns out, this self-employed borrower has an LLC that he's W-2'd on, that the money goes to not only some to the business bank statements, but also from the business bank statements into their personal statements. And I'm happy to report that actually the income came through when linking to their personal bank statements. So remember, it's really most important to find out, self-employed, wage earner, either way, how does your borrower receive pay or payroll? And if that's the case, linking to the personal bank statements works great. So, and I totally get not wanting to link to tax transcripts. That's a self-employed issue that we've had in this industry since the dawn of time. So.
You know, to expand on that real quick, I know we're a little over time. There is no punishment for somebody linking their taxes. I've been on calls with loan originators that do not refuse to let their self-employed individuals link their taxes because figure then would see the write-offs, depreciations, and count it against them, and so forth. We don't. We always take whichever income verification option is used that verifies more income. And I have seen, even with the write-offs, the depreciations, and all that things that self-employed individuals use, I have seen them verify enough income to proceed still. Because
by the way, it's such a great point, Reef. And so I just want to make sure everyone heard what he said. In our system, a borrower could link to their personal statements. They could upload pay stubs. They could link to their asset accounts for asset depletion. And they could also link to their tax transcripts. And in our world, we're going to use whatever the highest income number was, not the lowest. So there is never any harm or foul in choosing all sources. Now, most of the time you don't have to do that, but just to drive the point home,
And we only need enough income to support the offers. If they don't verify their full stated amount, they may still verify enough for that offer or something less. So it never hurts to do that. I see some people squeezing in some questions the last minute here. Puerto Rico, no, not at this time. Just 50 states plus DC. That could be possibly eligible. And AGI, Tim, you want to talk on that?
Adjusted gross income is what it stands for. There's a whole algorithm and formula that's used. If you wanted to, Nima, you could reach out to our sales success team and I can take some snippets out of the credit guides for you so that you had a better understanding. By the way, full transparency, self-employment for that person that writes off everything under the sun. I get it. If I were self-employed, we would all do the same thing. However, that's not our strength, right? So again, if you run an inquiry and you see, oh, we can't verify the income that the borrower is saying, listen, shift gears, move on. It's not going to work 100% of the time. And I say it's actually okay because it only took you 2 minutes. Reef will tell you 20 seconds, but you see what I mean? So just understand it is what it is,
Yeah, it's not as simple as just looking at the AGI and going off of that.
Yeah, by the way, I totally get it that self-employed clients often don't pay themselves. Totally understand. And it's interesting because even as an originator, I've had to have this conversation. You talk to someone, they say, oh, I make $500,000 a year. Okay, great. What does your Schedule C say? Oh, you make $5,000 a year? In other words, that's what you pay taxes on? That's oftentimes the number that no matter what the loan is, that we end up having to live with, right? So frustrating, I get it, but it's not a new frustration for all of us as loan originators. We've dealt with this for a long time. So anyway, I think we need to wrap it up, gentlemen. We have gone a little long. Everybody, thank you so much for attending. And real quick side note, Alex is going to be riding off into the sunset for just a couple weeks, right, Alex?
Yeah, correct. So I will not be on the next webinar. I will be on the following one.
Well, we might force him onto the next webinar. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, Alex has got some things going on. He's getting handled, which we're excited for. So, Alex, best of luck with that. And then we look forward to having you back on future webinars. It's going to be Reef and I here for a minute. And please, for any of you that had any of those questions, and I think it was John that I really want to thank him for his Florida ID suggestion. So if you shoot us an email, John, love to get in contact with you. So listen, as always, thank you, everybody. Oh, and Alex, you'll be sending out recording. This will also live on our YouTube.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We'll be posting this recording here on YouTube very shortly, if not today, tomorrow. But I'll be sending out an email to everyone on here. We're going to have full documentation in there of everything we talked about. You'll get demo videos in that documentation as well. So look forward to that. And again, email us at salessuccess@figure.com or, schedule time with us. So let us know how we can help with that. Thank you all very much. I think I'm going to go get some food now.
Have a great rest of your week.